Fala aí pessoal, quem está falando é Arthur, vamos postando de stories e bora pro vídeo. Vamos continuar aí. A gente tem que achar a história do Lapino. Eu vou começar com o Lapino e depois eu vou pegar... Putz, eu vou sequestrar ela de novo, porque essa é a ideia do Lapino, mas esse aqui do Lapino arrisca. Não estava dando muito certo.
Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen a winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait.
Vamos nessa.
Where was the prison?
Talvez eu consiga minério suficiente para fazer o upgrade na espada, mas eu não sei dizer não. Vamos ver. Preciso de 100. Bom, 100 minérios acho que a gente consegue numa run. Nessa. Sentindo os gráficos um pouco cagado. Sombra tem mais do que alta? Muito baixa. Muito baixa. Alta, muito baixa. Vamos fazer isso.
Come on. One fox, no waiting.
Saca, perdendo umas vidas aqui. Não era legal perder. Perfeito.
Odd. Bernardo had been here, at this exact place, at this exact time. This time, there were so many more ravens. There had to be something useful in these things, didn't there?
Combate nem deu graça. Vamos lá, tem que especial aqui. Vida? É sério que eu abri um baú pra vida? Essa foi o cúmulo pra mim. Mas vamos nessa.
That is a very cool sword, thought Renata. But seriously, he couldn't feel his paw anymore.
Outro pauzinho aqui, tomara que venha minério.
Bernardo had tried everything. Zenobia had loved him to death. The Sky Ripper destroyed everything. The Iblis Stone had corrupted everyone who held it. He never put much faith in Lapino. But Lapino was all he had left.
É, exatamente, mas aí eu segui todas as vezes.
A lever? That was new. Most people still use doorknobs.
Só vem vida agora nesses baús, então nem vou abrir mais essas portas secretas, não tá compensando muito não, porque ó, eu preciso de um pouquinho de minério para fazer a espada e as joias parece que todas elas já estão nível 3. Então acabou aqui a exploração do jogo. Vamos nessa, onde eu tenho que ir? O level talvez eu tenha que subir, não falta ainda. Beleza, vamos nessa. Vamos nessa. História do Lapino. Perfeito.
Ravens were landing everywhere. The advance guard. You'd better get moving. If they got to Lapino first, they'd eat him for breakfast. Or a snack. Ravens weren't picky. If they got hungry, they sometimes forgot to interrogate their prisoners. Even top spies like Lapino. Where had the mad rabbit got to?
Beleza, faltam só 17 para ser mais exato de minérios. E a gente já consegue fazer a última espada do jogo.
Something he liked to do, but only after he'd killed all the witnesses.
Beleza. Cadê você, Lapino? Nem vou abrir as portas secretas, não adianta.
His mother had never let him wave his sword around at home. He guessed he was still compensating for that.
Hey, Lapino!
Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized we capture Zenobia.
Beleza.
We find out what she knows. And that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who happened to also be a deadly sorcerer, and, oh, his only daughter? That would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And he felt sure she had one for him. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power.
Bom, vamos ver. Essa eu nunca fui.
To make the Sky Ripper, the
Vamos
transcendent
tentar mudar aqui pro Sky Reaper, né? Vamos ver o que o Lapino vai achar disso, apesar de eu ter avançado.
It's beautiful here, thought Renato. He was thrilled to be back with his old war buddy. He'd missed the mad rabbit, but something was not quite right.
Puta, será que eu já fiz seleção errada já?
Hoped his hook didn't break.
Não tenho ups. Mesinha também não tem nada. Estamos indo bem, temos um up, mas não conseguimos voltar. Nice, precisamos só de minérios. Não sei se eu fiz o
There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time. These things could really use a hand.
Beleza, estamos indo bem.
Renato felt wrong all over. He could feel an almost palpable sickness in the air. And if the land could have tumors, they would look like these monstrous crystals. The forest was quieter than it had been. There were insects, a few birds, if you didn't count the ravens. Renato smelled sick animals and
Beleza,
dying
vamos
ones.
fechar aqui essa
No healthy
ideia.
ones. I'm getting a bad feeling about this, Renato thought. Maybe Lapino was right. Maybe they should have kidnapped Zenobia instead of coming here.
Fechou, nice.
This couldn't be good for global warming.
Opa, um altarzinho, hein? Por que eu não posso fazer isso? Por nem. Agora eu já posso matar os caras com um hit só, velho. Great power. É, começa a matar no hit só, bem legal isso aí. Chegamos no núcleo, foi rápido, hein?
As he held the radiant icosahedron, Renato felt queasy, like dozens of tiny worms were nibbling his insides. It wasn't healthy to be so close to the eye of a god. How could he use it? He could take it to the observatory. The scientists there could tell him how to harness its ancient power. But honestly, Renato ached to get away from it. He brought the core back with him to the Farfarer. But honestly, Renato ached to be rid of it. Tell you what, said Lapino. I'll take it to the observatory. You attack the Imperial outpost. The Imperial outpost was a vital communications node. Taking it could shatter the Empire's ability to coordinate. And it would be full of secret plans and maps and maybe even rebel prisoners. It was a good target for a hero like Renato. But what if Lapino lost the core to the Empire? That could be a good thing, couldn't it? Was Renato ready to take that risk? Maybe it was better if he brought the core to the scientists himself.
Não sei. Não, no núcleo é importante mais para confiar no Lapino. Não, vamos confiar no Lapino. Qualquer coisa para me livrar desse sentimento de saudade. Pensa no núcleo. Putz, agora eu não sei o que vai me levar pro Lapino. Não vou ir atrás desses daqui, eu já fui uma vez, vamos atrás desse.
Trust me, Renato, you won't regret this. I'll treat the car like it was my own baby daughter.
Fechou então, Lapino.
Dived towards the Nexus. Lapino was jumping up and down with excitement. Stop rabbiting around, Renato said. Lapino just stared at him. The moment the ship landed, Lapino leapt off the ship.
Beleza. A gente tá fazendo as vontades do Lapino, a gente quer a história do Lapino.
As Lapino vanished into the wilds of the Nexus, Renato vaguely remembered Lapino had a baby daughter, didn't he? And he told her mother he was going out to get some Easter eggs, and he'd never come back. But Renato was relieved not to carry the core anymore. He was already feeling better. And who knows, maybe this time Lapino would get it right. And if Renato could take the outpost, he'd have access to all the Empire's communications in the sector. Right?
Demora muito pra upar, mas eu realmente queria a espada de gelo última.
Take the goat across first.
Opa, um baúzinho não tem demais. Beleza, faltam só mais alguns. Minérios, falta só 12 agora. Vou abrir esse daqui só pra ver se a gente acha alguns minérios. Uma vez que a gente já pegou tudo que tem de... Beleza, Lapino, me fala a sua realidade, me fala a sua verdade e a gente segue isso por aqui. Mas alguém se atreve a entrar na minha frente? Não é isso que eu esperava, mano. Só vida. Não dá pra ir pra lá?
Renato wondered if his future self had commissioned these poles. Renato caught his breath. His joints still hurt, but he couldn't feel the poison in his system anymore.
Falta
He let the
5.
armature slip out of his hands to save his friend Lapino. Of course he had to let Lapino take the core. The rebellion needed every man doing his duty. And the rabbit would be no good taking on an Imperial outpost, right?
É, ele ia poder morrer aqui. Ai, meu Deus. Nossa, faltam 4.
This chess was really awesome. See what I did there?
Nossa, muito top matar com um hit só, velho.
Bernardo took the outpost with a song in his heart.
Já foi, já.
Soon, he was stuffing his sack with key messages from and to the fleet. Then the fire speaker toad chortled a new message. The observatory had been sacked by ravens. Lapino and all the scientists had been taken to the mountains. Why? Why had he trusted Lapino again? And now the Empire had the core. Bernardo hailed the rebel base to warn them. But their fire speaker didn't quote back. Was the base under attack too?
Salvar Lapino.
Who knew what was going on at the base? But he knew what the Ravens would do to Lapino if Bernardo didn't rescue him fast. What are old friends for, if not to need rescuing every few days?
Beleza, estamos seguindo uma história do Lapino cada vez mais estreito pro fim do Lapino, que é o que eu queria.
Bernardo felt a twinge of doubt. Should he have gone to the base? No. Logically, wherever they'd taken Lapino was probably where they took the core, right? Why couldn't Lapino have just, for once, not got himself captured? Was that too much to ask? He shouldn't be too hard on the rabbit. No, he meant well, and he was insanely brave. You had to admire that.
Acabou? Nossa, todo mundo morreu pro fogo. Beleza, vamos nessa.
There
Vamos
were
lá, Pina.
stickers all over the platform for really hot lady foxes, with pictures and addresses and everything.
Bom, eu diria que estamos caminhando bem. Nossa, aquele baúzinho ali, hein? É dos 4 minutos que faltam. Você me ousou atacar e perdeu um pouquinho de vida pra você.
Where were they holding Lapino anyway? There was no sign of him or the ravens who'd captured him. Just rocks and snow and the usual scouts. No sign of the core either. Was this a wild rabbit chase? Oh, trust Lapino to screw up even getting captured. But what was this rebellion for anyway? Lapino was useless, but he was a friend. If friends didn't matter anymore, what was the point of winning this war?
Beleza, vamos nessa.
Long live the Emperor! Caused the ravens.
4 minérios, 4 minérios, 4 minérios. Uhul! Fechou, já temos capacidade de fazer a última espada. Daqui a gente abre uma conquista.
Well, they really needed to redecorate anyway.
Nice.
Ronaldo thought about the intel he'd gathered from the outpost. Who would he bring it to? Who even had time to read it?
Cadê o Lapino?
At the end of the mountain path, Ronaldo came to a clearing. There was a campfire, raven feathers, and Lapino's lucky deck of cards. Well, that wasn't good. Ronaldo hoped Lapino would not try to cheat his captors at cards. Ravens were much better than weasels at counting, and they had a very poor sense of humor. Then, he saw what he had hoped never to see. Fresh scraps of rabbit fur. Ragged and bloody, ravens would eat anything.
By Crabthar's hammer!
Ronaldo screamed at the sky.
I will avenge you!
The rebels had assembled their fleet.
Ah, não acredito.
Ahead, the clouds were dark with Imperial ships. If he could reach the Emperor before the rest of the rebels did, maybe he could settle this without too much bloodshed. He set sail, and the Farfarer shot forward.
Acabou, eu não sei se vai ser a história do Lapino de novo, mano, mas, meu, ele morre.
Poor Lapino had never been a great warrior. The mad rabbit was good for a laugh.
Bom, mas pelo menos a gente consegue fazer a última espada.
The thought of ravens eating him made Ronaldo furious.
Beleza,
The
todas
way
as
they were eating up
espadas.
the land. The way the Emperor was eating up the people with his new, bloodthirsty ways. He would make them all pay.
Beleza. Vingar Lapino, objetivo atual. Caramba, o Lapino você não tá dando uma dentro. Ah, falta pouco para o pai ter o último poder ali do amarelinho também.
A portal that led right into the middle of the fleet.
Ah, esse aqui não adianta pegar
A
mais.
glaring weakness in the defense.
Pode vir quantos forem agora, tipo, a gente já tá quase upgradeando pra 20 combos, matar em one hit kill.
Ronaldo wondered what would happen if he jumped. Would he be rescued by an emergency platform?
Nice.
Ronaldo felt ready to... He had given up every objective to save his friend. He'd given up the armature, the core, the gem, and even Zenobia. He loved Lapino, he realized. And now the rabbit was gone. A hero looks out for his friends, even when they're gone. He would send Lapino an honor guard of ravens to serve him in the halls of the valiant. He would avenge him.
Beleza. nem ligo mais pelo fogo, a gente já tá com tanta vida, tanto tudo, já estamos bem upgradeados, diria, no jogo. Muita vida, muitos kills, estamos indo bem. Quebrou meu fundo. Ah, mano, que droga. Será que eu consigo a história do Lapino? Confiei no Lapino. Não dá pra ser a história do núcleo. Aí.
And there was Lapino, surrounded by ravens. He was alive. They'd eaten some other rabbit. "I'll save you!" he shouted with joy and flung himself at the ravens. "Oh, you shouldn't have," said Lapino when the last raven was down. Renato threw his arms around his best friend. "I had to come. I love you, man. You really, really shouldn't have," said Lapino. And Renato felt a rather sharp pain in his back. As he collapsed, Lapino took the dagger out of Renato's back and wiped it off on Renato's sleeve. "Why, you always have to be the hero. Brave Renato, epic Renato, super sexy Renato, and I'm sick of it. But I loved you. And you thought I was the idiot," said Lapino as Renato died.
Então Lapino é traidor.
Some of the choices he'd faced before. Maybe there were new paths that had opened up. Like those doors he was opening up all over the map that took him to new treasures and around his enemies. But he'd learned another true thing. Lapino was a traitor. Renato had suspected there was something wrong with the mad rabbit. But now he knew there was malice behind his goofiness.
Tá. Agora eu tenho que continuar e descobrir a história verdadeira.
Faster than before, and he fell. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Renato knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it, to take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. And he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage.
Com certeza, era esse mesmo que eu escolhi. Vamos nessa.
Renato finally realized that Lapino was a traitor to the cause. And maybe Renato could use that somehow.
Beleza.
Renato couldn't quite put his paw on when he'd realized Lapino was working for the Empire. He'd never exactly seen Lapino sending coded messages to the palace, but he was sure. The rabbit had been on too many disastrous missions where he was the only survivor, or where he accidentally missed getting on the boat that went down to the abyss in flames. If Renato could prevent Lapino from getting back to the fleet with all the intelligence he'd probably gathered, it might be worth the trip.
Bom, pessoal, eu vou ter que ficando com esse episódio por aqui.
They'd been on so many adventures together. Lapino had talked Renato out of prison at least 4 times, and Renato had rescued Lapino from at least 2 lynch mobs.
E é isso aí, galera. Se você curtiu esse vídeo, eu tenho certeza que o próximo vídeo vai ser o vídeo final dessa série fantástica. Então não deixe de acompanhar, não esquece de se inscrever e dar o sininho para receber todas as novidades. Mas nesse episódio a gente vai ficando por aqui. Se você curtiu o vídeo, não esquece de deixar like e, enfim, fazer tudo isso que eu já comentei. E eu vou ficando por aqui, pessoal. Obrigadão e até mais.